Welcome back to Outmaneuver. I'm Faith. I'm here with Jrod and His Dudness. And today we are here with a leader tier list for Twilight of the Republic.
We're going to kick it off with Nala Se. She is a leader who I don't know where exactly she's going to land, but I think she could be good. But personally, I'm going to probably put her in the fringe category. She could be competitively viable, but I don't know if she's that good. What do you guys think?
She might be the worst leader in the set.
Oh, so Dudness thinks she's unplayable.
I kind of have her in the not good tier. We don't have a ton of great clones that I think make worth it to use her. In limited, I have very little value of her, so yeah. I don't see her really in any use. So I'd put her like not good.
All right, I think not good is pretty fair for her. We'll leave her there for now and see what happens. Next up, we have Newt Gunray, who I do think could be competitive viable. If there's going to be a full hyper exploit deck, he's probably going to be the engine that makes it tick. So I have him in comp viable. What do you guys think?
I kind of agree with that. I think he has potential. If there's going to be a big exploit deck, he's definitely going to be one of the big leaders for it.
Yeah, I think especially the fact that exploit is in this set, we're seeing that units are going to be able to die more. They're just generally going to die. In a game where you get to choose the attacker, get to choose who they're attacking, you have a lot of control. Where Nala Se is like Hera to me, Newt Gunray is like Krennic to me. So I think a lot of upside here.
There we go. Can't go one video without mentioning Krennic. All right. Next on the list, we have Wat Tambor. This is a more aggressive exploit deck leader. A little. I don't think he's going to be as good as a Newt Gunray. Because to me, I think the exploit decks are going to be good because of the cards you get to reward yourself with exploit. So I would probably put him in the not good territory for that reason. I could see him being in fringe as well.
Yeah, I'd put him in borderline fringe, not good. Like he might end up with like a deck that's all right, but
I think he's definitely better than Nala Se.
I think
sure.
I would put him in fringe. I think, and I would do that because I think 1, being an official type, we're going to see some more official support, and 2, Emperor's Royal Guard seems really good with him. And giving your units, +2/+2, that seems pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely could be an interesting aggro deck that people come up with him. Like, so that way when the control player kills your unit, you still get +2/+2 on your other unit. I could see that definitely being like, the mindset here. We could be really wrong, and we could come back and look at this, in a couple months and be like, wow, how wrong were we? And he's one that I would say that we could definitely be wrong on. But I think for now, probably the top of not good, the back end of fringe is where a good spot for him. Next on the list, Count Dooku. We're just getting all the exploit leaders out of the way here, and ramp is very good in this game, and he basically gives you on-demand ramp. I don't know if we have all the payoffs for him, but let me just say, I think Dooku could potentially be the back end of meta changer or top of comp viable for me. I think he's that good, and I think we're going to see a lot of him. Being able to play the set 1 rare Dooku for 5 is insane and can really change games pretty quickly. So I think that he's phenomenal. How about you guys?
I agree with pretty much everything. He's for sure competitive viable. We'll just have to wait and see how good exploit actually ends up being, but he for sure is going to be probably the best exploit deck if it does come out.
I think I would put him at the front end of competitive viable. I think that I think he can be strong. I do like his interaction with both the set 1 Dooku, and I like his interaction with the set 3 Dooku. Mm-hmm. My one kind of question on him is he does need Separatist cards to get that effect off, and some of the Separatist cards already have an exploit. So and how much support is Separatist going to get along the way? I'm not sure there. So that's my one hesitation. His flip side, very good, though. Very strong unit.
All right. Next on the list is Darth Maul. Maul, to me, is great. People, I think, have been undervaluing him and how good he is. Basically, any Vader deck you have been playing, you can just play Maul, and it's an upgrade. The 6/6 body is great. The Overwhelm is also secretly really good. So I think Maul's a pretty good leader. I think I'd have him above Newt, but below Dooku in comp viable. I don't think he's necessarily a meta changer himself, but I think he definitely could see some play within the meta. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how Maul is going to fit. Do think he could be competitive viable because
so you have him more in fringe then?
Like top of fringe into viable, I guess, because giving everything overwhelm is okay, but like if they're just trading off anyways, his flip side has to do a lot of the heavy lifting, I feel like.
I really do like his flip side with Kylo, and so for that reason I have him in meta changer. And both with Kylo and with Maul, I think are great, huge ends on one side, top end of a curve. So yeah, I have him maybe low meta changer, early competitive viable. So I think in the middle of competitive viable seems like a good place to put him.
Awesome. So next up on the list is the other aggression villainy leader, Pre Vizsla. This is a Mando. He's I think his flip side is one of the better flip sides at 5, other than maybe Boba Fett, obviously. I think as we move on in the game, and if we start seeing more card draw being like just inherently like secondary effects on cards, like play this card, draw a card, I think he'll get better. But right now we don't have enough support for him. So for that reason, I'm going to put him probably in unplayable, unfortunately. There's just not many reasons to play him over some other units in that area. That's where I would have him. I just, unless you're playing him for fun like Twin Suns, I don't think he's very good.
Yeah, I agree with all that. He feels pretty unplayable to me. Card draw just isn't worth it here. His leader side only activates if you draw in period. It's not like you like draw a card at the start of your turn, it can always activate it. And you have to find some other way to then pay a resource to do a ping. I don't know, it just feels pretty bad.
Yeah, if the ping was free in the front, I think he'd be a lot better, but because it costs 1, I just think he's not.
There's kind of a weird mix where he deploys really early, so you might be thinking, well, I want to try to win the game fast, but to get a lot of cards in your hand, you're maybe playing more control. Like normally an aggro deck would have no cards in their hand, so he does seem kind of like he's going in 2 different directions. So I think the unplayable category to me makes sense right now.
Next up on the list is our first starter leader. We have General Grievous. Starter leaders are tough to really have us push into the competitive scene. Set 1, we had some Luke and Vader decks for sure, but I think that really had to do with the limited card pool. So I don't really see a Grievous deck being super competitive. So I'd probably put him in not good, honestly. I think he could be above Nala, but I think he's definitely not better than Wat Tambor. I'd rather play Wat, I think, than Grievous. And I mean, I'm a clone guy, so I'd probably play Nala over Grievous as well. But power level wise, I think Grievous is probably a touch better.
Yeah, I agree with his placement. He doesn't exactly spark joy, but he's not the worst leader ever printed either. So, but he does need droids to do his thing. So, I mean, I don't think a droid deck is going to be viable, but it'll be for sure a fun leader. Thematic.
So one thing I do like about him is I think that if you're ever going to consider so far running another cunning villainy leader, he has an interesting at least perspective where it looks like he's playing more late game. If you do get a bunch of droids somehow, you can give them all Sentinel, and then you're keeping your base alive to the late game. However, I like his placement there.
Next up is Jango Fett, and honestly, I'm going to just rip him off as probably unplayable, mostly due to the fact because of Clone's son there, Boba Fett, just being strictly better. You could play him, but if we're talking competitive gameplay here, there's zero reason to play Jango Fett over Boba Fett. He's probably better than Pre-Vizsla, but I don't think that matters too much.
Yeah, it's just a shame that Boba Fett just outclasses him in pretty much every way.
I guess for me, I don't look at the comp so much. Like, I do understand why the comp with Boba. I actually look like with Thrawn, and I think I like Thrawn more. So for those 3 reasons you guys mentioned, and then also if you are trying to use that ability to exhaust units, I think I would rather use Thrawn.
All right. So next we have Asajj Ventress. And this is an interesting one. I think this is potentially the first cunning villainy leader that we have that could potentially see play outside of Boba Fett. I don't necessarily think she's competitive viable yet. I think she's definitely in the fringe category. She can coincidentally, with a surprise strike, kill a Boba Fett leader in 1 attack and live through it. But her being a 3/4, like we saw with Dudness' boy IG-88 in set 1, having 4 HP is just trash cans. You die to open fire and a lot of other stuff. A lot of the ambush units on 4, like 4 Lom just kills her. She's going to be pushed down because of that, but I think she's very interesting, and I wish she was better because I like the effect on her, and I think that she would have been cool if she was a 3/5 or even a 2/5. I would have been cool with a 2/5 as well.
Yeah, I think Fringe is spot on. I think there's a chance she could have a good deck come, but as he said, she's a bit frail. Doesn't matter if she has a cool unit side ability if she doesn't stick around to use it very much. But I do like the idea of her and wish that she could be better.
What I don't like about her leader side is it's just her that has the ability to get that on attack trigger is just her. So it's not like she gives that effect to all your units. So you get one really cool playoff with her, and in my experience, then she's defeated next time, and then she's useless, basically. Not useless, but then she's not deployed anymore. And so I'm not really sure where to put her. Again, it seems like she's more of an aggro leader, and if she dies really easily, I don't know. I when I played against her, it seemed pretty easy to control.
Next up is Mr. Hello There, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I admittedly haven't played much of him, but it mostly has to do with the fact that I just don't see a real great spot for him, and we have other better leaders in similar colors that just do other things better. We haven't gotten to some of them yet, but like he's fine. I think if like Quinlan Vos ever becomes like hyper meta OP, like Boba Fett kind of, I can see Obi-Wan being a little bit of a counter to him. But other than that, I don't really see a place. I'd probably put him in like the top end of not good, back end of fringe is where I'd have him.
I definitely think he is at least fringe. Because in my limited experience playing against it, like the heal is actually pretty annoying. One unit can get a decent amount of value if you don't try to claim early enough so that they can just first action heal a unit and then trade into the one that you have. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think he has some play. We'll just have to see if someone can make the right deck for it,
right? I have Obi at compatible viable, probably in between Maul and Newt. And the reason is he flips a 4/7 Sentinel. I love that deploy. It has an immediate impact on the board, protecting a lane, and then his on attack is able to heal himself, and so really you are potentially able to just keep him alive for a very, very long time built in. The 4 attack as well is pretty significant, I find, to help weaken their army. So I have him at worst the end of compatible viable, but I would probably have him somewhere around Maul.
And I believe you have a deck tech potentially coming out for him?
Yes, you can expect a deck tech kind of focused on a Force theme on him soon.
Nice, awesome. Well, speaking of Force theme, let's hop into everyone's favorite, Yoda. And I'm not going to mince words here. I think he's a meta changer. I think he's going to be one of the best leaders in this set. He has some really fun things with You're My Only Hope. He can really do some powerful and outrageous stuff. It will be somewhat of a control deck, but I think he's going to be a lot of fun to play. And I think it's going to be a lot of people's favorite leader from this set. So that's where I'd have him is meta changer, top end of competitive viable. He's definitely up there for sure.
He's no doubt one of the best leaders of the set. I'm hesitant to call him a meta changer, but like I can definitely see it. Both of his sides are really good. The ability to just draw a card when a unit leaves play and then put any card. It's like an infinitely better version of set 1 R2. I love it. The fact that it makes You're My Only Hope playable, not just playable, but a banger of a card that you're actively trying to search for every time you mulligan with Yoda, right? Like you're looking for a card because it's so good. And then his leader side, his unit side really synergizes with his leader side, the ability to put any card on top so that when he deploys that you can kill pretty much anything out on the field for free is pretty incredible. Restore 2, like this dude is definitely I think my favorite of all the leaders of set 3, I think.
Which says a lot, because dude is an aggro player, and Yoda is most certainly not an aggro card.
Yeah, he's definitely not.
I think it for that reason, I would have him on competitive viable, probably around the Dooku level, probably ahead of Dooku. But I do wonder if he'll be able to keep up with the fast-paced nature of the aggro decks, which are pretty fast.
I mean, my one argument to that would be if you pair him with Red. We had Han 2 Red last set that did pretty well, which I think that Yoda would be able to kind of take that deck a little bit and make it his own little spice to it. Because also being able to get Luke out early was the reason why Han 2 was so good. So being able to get Luke out even earlier with Yoda and You're My Only Hope is even better without having Luke have 2 damage. So, I mean, there's a lot of really cool options here with that. So, yeah, I just think Yoda's kind of cracked. And I think he'll be able to hang in there, but we'll have to see. Wait and see. See what some of the more better competitive players come up with. All right, let's move on to what is actually the best leader of a set. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to just change everything, that he is going to shape Star Wars Unlimited as we know it, Rex. I'm absolutely memeing. He's my favorite character in Star Wars, so I love him. I do think he could be competitive viable. I do think his ability is really good. It saves you from power of the dark side and creates token and really helps you make coordinate work. So people have been testing with him, and actually I've seen some games where he does really well. So I think he would definitely be like back end of competitive viable, probably fringe if we remove my bias a little bit. But I think somewhere in there, I could definitely see him being at least a player in the meta.
Yeah, I think Captain Rex is for sure is fringe. I haven't seen it do well myself personally, but obviously that doesn't mean it's not possible. The front side ability just seems pretty lackluster until the later stages of the game. And even his leader deploys, sure, he gets an extra 2/2 boy, but just a 2/6, this doesn't really spark joy.
I do like how he comes with a friend. He is the perfect Jrod card because he will knock out Power of the Dark-Sided. I do, worry about that front side ability, though. It's hard. It is hard to trigger in the early game, so in some ways he seems a little bit more later game in that sense. I will have to wait and see, though, for more. So I have him in fringe tier as well. I have him below Obi-Wan, though.
All right, next up we have Padme Amidala. This is one that I feel like many people have really overlooked, and I think that she can be quite powerful. Again, I've been watching some gameplay of Set 3 from people testing early on, and there was a really great Padme deck that did real well. Her draw card ability on her front side is pretty impressive, and I actually think she's better potentially than Captain Rex. So I would probably also put her in fringe tier, just above Rex, potentially. But I think these two are going to devalue her, so she'll probably end up a little bit lower, but that's where I would.
Yeah, I don't think she's very good and borderline unplayable. I just don't. It's not my playstyle, so it's hard for me to evaluate, right? Like, I'm not really looking for an Amidala deck, but it just doesn't seem very good. You only look at the top 3, which gives you a reasonable chance to whiff occasionally, which I have seen in my testing. So I'm hesitant to think she's any better than not good.
I have her at not good. I do love the dream of the official deck. I think she would be the leader for that. However, in my playtesting, it has been hard unless you commit really hard to Republic to get that effect off consistently enough. And it is still coordinate is still difficult to get at a reasonable amount of times, and it does have a resource cost to it. So if I want to draw cards, I think I would rather play like Cassian Andor.
So I think I've seen her shine a lot was with In Defense of Camino, which when a Republic unit dies, you get a clone and they have Restore 2. And that card really allows her to change the turn of the game, the tide of the game, and she can draw that card because it's also a Republic card. So I think because of that card and her ability to draw it is the reason why I think that she's a little bit better than maybe you guys are giving her credit for. But I definitely think she's better than Wat Tambor.
I'm hesitant to say that, but you're certainly entitled to your opinion.
Fair enough. We can leave her behind if I'm outvoted there.
Did you say that Rex was the best leader in the game? I thought it was another leader.
Oh, this is a very close second best leader ever. She's gonna make Boba Fett cry and wish he had his daddy again. Ahsoka Tano, again, messing around a little bit here, but I do think she can be good. I think she's definitely fringe as well. Coordinate's definitely tough, but that 5/6 body is a real big attacker. Also, 3/6 is not miserable for 5. It's not great, but it's not miserable. You really have to work a little bit to get the coordinate going, but I think that depending on how the meta shakes out, she'll be okay. I'm a big fan. She also is one of the earliest Force users. It's also in red, so I think she'll be all right.
I personally think she's going to be competitive viable. It's not as hard to activate coordinate as you think. And there is a spicy play of if you deploy her and have one other unit out on the board and then play the Republic Tactical Officer, that immediately activates coordinate, lets you attack for 2, and then she now swings for 7. And 7 is a very critical number against a very certain other leader that also deploys at 5. So usually he deploys a turn sooner, also part of the problem, different discussion. But she does have the chance to one-shot a Boba Fett. And it doesn't take that much effort.
You also have her lightsaber, which is a similar effect, gives her +2 and can attack with it. So multiple ways to potentially take out Boba Fett, which, and she lives through with 2 HP, which is notable. So if they have some battle droids laying around, they can't just ping her off.
And I can say from experience, if someone suits her up reasonably well and gets in 2 swings for 15, 16 damage, that can just be enough to win a game.
I would also give her big pops for if you're playing her in the pre-release. She's very strong as a leader in Limited. But I would agree with Dudness on that. I do like the potential of having a unit on the board. I think anything with coordinate is a little bit nicer when there's a leader involved because they're just an automatic unit. So yeah, I like that play of having one more unit, deploying her, and then using the officer to give her a little scoot.
Well, next up, we have the hero of the Clone Wars, Anakin Skywalker. He offers a really interesting gameplay. I think pairing him with restore units like Yoda, Kanan, and the what's her name, the Night Sister chick from this set here. She's just a blue unit, daughter of Dathomir. who's also a Force user, and if she's undamaged, she has Restore 2. So with Anakin, she can kill something and Restore 2 and live, and she can still turn on Force, throw it, all that kind of good stuff. I think he's solid. I think he's above Obi-Wan. I don't know if he's going to be competitive viable, but I'd probably have him at the end of competitive viable, top of Fringe.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Jrod nailed it. I think top of Fringe is where he's going to go. He can definitely control the board, right? Like, he's not really an aggro deck. His ability is strictly all about trading up, using your units to trade up. If you can have high health units to then trade into the other units and stick around, hey, that's great. Don't think he's going to end up being competitive viable, but, we'll see. Fringe seems perfect to me.
I like Fringe. I do think he's an interesting gameplay, being able to damage your own base. It's interesting. It's risky. I'm curious to see how we use him. I think his cards are fine in the set, but I don't know if they're great.
Now we have Mace Windu. I think he's okay. I think Anakin and I think Yoda do similar things better. So for that reason, I'm going to have him in back end of Fringe or not good, just because of that. I think he's really cool and interesting. I think there's other formats that are pretty good for him, but for like Constructed and Premier, I don't think that he's going to be the guy.
I've played against a double red Mace control deck that does a lot better than you would think. So I'd definitely put him in at least Fringe, maybe the towards the top, because his ability is pretty all right to just start stacking the damage on something and finish it off. It's not as bad as you think. I think he will be better than people think. And that double red control deck was actually pretty gross. This makes cards like Grenade Strike and stuff like this so much better because you're able to spread the damage and then finish it off with the ping if you need to.
All right. So next we'll go to Quinlan Vos, who I got slapped around today. Shout out to Loopy from Late Night Gaming. Really showing me the power of this guy and how good this guy could be. He was playing Quinlan Red, and it was doing some work against a lot of good stuff. I was playing Dooku and Anakin. I think he's definitely worse than Yoda, but I think he's in comp viable somewhere at the top. I don't think he's a meta changer, but I think he's could be a new option for Red Hero aggressive players that maybe want to have a touch more control than what Sabine has.
I definitely think he could be competitive viable because his leader side ability just seems pretty decent to me. And the key thing is that it's free, right? It's a reaction. It's not an action. And that is what I think is going to set him, higher than he would if that wasn't a free action. Now, there is the downside of it has to be the same cost. So you have to do a little bit of hoops to jump through to make it work how you want to, but I still think it's pretty good.
I would say that he's also, like Ahsoka, an early Force unit. So that's always got some nice potential.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Palpatine. I would like to say he's a meta changer. I'd like to say he's comp viable. Realistically, he's going to be in Fringe for me. I think that he could be. I just don't. It's going to take a lot of testing, a lot of work to really figure out what the deck's going to be and what kind of card you're going to want in it. I was playing one today. It was really fun to flip them back and forth, and I didn't have too many issues with that in a Palpatine red deck. But it's definitely going to be an interesting leader, to say the least. And I think people will want to play him. I just don't know how actually competitive viable he'll be. His showcase art is gorgeous, though.
I want to say he'll be a meta changer, or at least competitive viable. But that might just be because I think he's just a really great design as a card, and he's great for the game, and I want him to be competitive viable. But
I think everyone has like 3 Palpatine decks built in SWDB already, like just testing out a bunch of stuff on him.
Yeah, like he's good for the game regardless. But I think there is somebody out there who's really good at deck building who's going to just make a cracked Palpatine deck, and that's why I think he has the potential to be a meta changer.
I would say I do wonder how he will be this set. I think as we get more villainy and heroism cards, and particularly more villainy cards, I think we can see some more interesting gameplay with him. Right now, I think I would have him at Fringe, but I would be very open to, in the future, seeing what Chancellor Palpatine / Darth Sidious does.
Sweet.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time on L Maneuver.